Hello everybody, I am Ashley Fields with Yard Artists, and today is Thursday, August 20th, and we are going to be painting our Free Pumpkins barrel together. How cute is this? I just love this pattern. It's nice and simple as far as your color patterns or your color choices go. And so we're gonna get started here in just a second with our dry brushing because we need that to dry before we can start shading. Hey Debbie, how are you doing, hon? Happy Thursday to you. One more day in your work week. And then we all get a couple of days off, right? We have been working, getting ready for our fall season coming up. So I have been a little more busy lately, as in like the last several days, than I have been in a while. So I feel like I'm kind of like running around like a chicken with my head cut off. But yes, today's your Friday. That's awesome. Hey Dolores, how are you doing, hon? I'm so glad you came and tuned in with us tonight. We're going to be doing our Free Pumpkins barrel. And so the first thing we're gonna go ahead and get started with is gonna be our dry brushing. Hi Katie, I'm so glad you're here. Hope you're doing good, hun. All right, y'all, so let's get started. I started with one coat of white. I know that there's not much white on here. That white is really for your base coat so that the colors that you're gonna put on top of there will stick and stay without being transparent. And so I started with one coat of white, and then I came in and did my reindeer brown. I did teal, light orange, Christmas green, and then all this is reindeer brown. So the only white that you see poking through is just that one coat of white. I want you to look at it and see that you can still see through it. So if I had two coats of white, you wouldn't be able to see through it. But I had to go ahead and do that as a base for my colors. So, hey Carla, hey Sandy, I'm so glad you're with us tonight. Joyce, thank you so much for coming and tuning in. Here is the look at what we're gonna be doing tonight. So it's your color pattern, you know, we're trying to stick with some fall colors. I have that camera rotated so that you guys can read. And I swear, when I have the camera rotated, it throws off my whole direction of where the camera is and where I'm supposed to be showing stuff, because it's typically opposite. I typically have to almost show stuff over here on this side, but with my camera rotated, it's on this side. So forgive me if it looks like, you know, I'm being a little wonky. But that's what we're gonna be working on tonight. And so since I already have my reindeer brown as a base, I'm gonna go ahead and get started with my dry brushing. Now, when I do dry brushing, I always do a shade darker and a shade lighter. I'm gonna always start with my darker shade first and allow that to dry, and then come in with my lighter shade, because that's what's really gonna give me that contrast that I'm looking for. So let me grab a little taste tester spoon and mix this paint. Y'all know anytime I use a 2-ounce cup of paint, it's because my paint already has a little bit of water added to it. So I need to mix that paint back together because it does get separated sitting in my cups. So, hi Lauren, thank you for coming and joining me. Y'all, I've been on the phone for the last, I don't know, hour and 30 minutes, hour and 45 minutes with my best friend Lauren. And we had such a great girl talk. It's so nice getting to have conversations with a good girlfriend sometimes. So I really was enjoying that. And then I was like, oh no, y'all, I have a live in 10, I gotta go. So I'm hoping that I brought everything to the table that I need, because I was really kind of sidetracked tonight with girlfriend conversations. But y'all know, we always need those. Those are good to have. So, all right, I'm starting at the top. Your middle and your bottom are all gonna be going horizontal. I'm going to do the layer in between those as a vertical to try to make it look like a real barrel. Because a barrel has vertical slats held together by horizontal slats. That's kind of what I'm trying to create with my paint. So I'm gonna come in here and now start doing my vertical. And I'm just kind of loading the tip of this brush. This is a 1-inch chip brush from Home Depot, Lowe's, wherever. You can get them for like 99 cents. Mine's nasty because it sat in the water a little too long, got rusted. But that don't matter. It still works just the same. So I'm creating those vertical lines and then come in here and do my horizontal lines as well. So you kind of dip the tip of your brush in your paint. This paint already has a little bit of water added to it. You don't necessarily have to have that already added in, but I prefer the look of it because my paint glides a little bit further and I get more out of my brush. And so I kind of am going back and forth between vertical and horizontal, because when we bring out our shader, we're gonna really create that barrel look. So right now it might not look like much, but give us a few minutes and it'll start to look like a lot more. So now, I want you guys to look at this, because when I'm doing dry brushing, I actually go for this. So you see how I have a little bit more paint right here than I do, you know, on my other edges right here. So I like the way that that looks at the end. So I'm actually gonna come back into some of these other parts and almost try to make it look more distressed or have more darker spots on there. Because once I come in with that camel, I like to see some dark spots kind of hidden throughout. I don't want them across the whole thing, but I love seeing them in just a couple spots. So, good thing about dry brushing is if there's maybe a certain spot you don't like at this moment, you're still gonna come in with a lighter shade, number one, and then we're also gonna come in with a shader brush and do shading. So there's still a lot of time to cover up maybe little imperfections if there's something that you see that you don't care for. I'm gonna go ahead and flip it around, and we're gonna do the same thing with the top. Now, I have this little piece right here that's kind of holding up the top of the sign behind this, your little pumpkin nub. I don't know what you call that, your stump on your pumpkin. And so I'm gonna get a little bit of vertical lines on that because it is obviously going up and down. But then on the top, I'm gonna go back to horizontal. So I load just a little bit on the brush and I'm very lightly stroking it across here. I'm not coming down with any pressure at all. I'm really just kind of laying down that brush barely and pulling it across. I love the look of some, you know, maybe darker spots, and then having some lighter spots mixed in. That's gonna come in handy once we add that camel to here, and it'll look really good in two-toned once we get all the other, or get our other brown tone added in. So for my shading brown, for right now, as far as dry brushing, I'm done. I'm gonna cap this for a minute. We are gonna come back to the shading brown when we actually shade our piece. But for now, we're gonna be done with that. Now, because I need to wait for this shading brown to dry before I come in with my camel, I'm gonna actually switch and start shading my pumpkins and the kind of the little blanket that the pumpkins are resting on. So let me reach in here and grab my shader. I also wanna show you guys, I've kind of come to that point where the shader that I've been using is about dead and gone. It's about ready to bite the dust. So I've been having to work on, sorry, I'm digging in a bucket of water right here. I've been having to work on breaking in a new shader. So I'm gonna show you guys this. This is a shader that's painted thousands of pieces, and it is all frayed and turning into a big, wide nightmare. It's no longer nice and tame. And so I really think I've gotten my money's worth out of this. I probably paid 20 bucks for it, and I painted thousands of pieces with it. And it's about time to retire, because with my bristles being this way, I'm not gonna get the line, I'm not gonna get the look that I want out of things. So I've been having to break in new shaders, and I know I've told y'all I'm not the fan of breaking in new shaders, but sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do. So I'm actually gonna be using a Royal Gold shader today. Royal Gold is the same people that put out the script liners that we use. So you'll see the same kind of color combinations. I also have a Cotman half-inch flat tip brush that I might be flipping back and forth with. So these are actually same brand as our mop brushes and our script liners. So for me, because I have experience with these brands. I already know that they're pretty good. And in fact, I want to say that my mom gave me this brush, or that I, quote unquote, maybe took it from her because she didn't use it anymore, or stole it from her, because I usually show up to her house and I'm like, okay, I need some brushes. What do you got? What can I take? And I'm pretty sure she gave this one to me. So since I have that light orange as my base on my pumpkins, I'm now gonna come in with a little bit of shading orange. Hey Melissa, how are you doing? I'm so glad you're here. I hope you're doing well. I'm gonna dip that corner of my shader. This is a shader number 16. It's a little bit bigger than what I typically like, but my other shader that I'm used to using, my number 12, bit the dust today. And so I really don't have any other brushes that are broken into the way that I like them. So I'm gonna use this one for our purposes tonight. So this is a number 16, but I want you guys to notice I'm kind of not using it the full fat way, the long ways. I'll be able to turn this brush and get a smaller width out of it if that's what I'm wanting. Because a 16 is a wider width than what we typically use. All right, so I started with just a little bit on the perimeter, and then I'm gonna kind of just come up and create the illusion of that pumpkin being there. Now with this pumpkin, it's kind of hidden behind. So that middle part of my pumpkin is gonna almost be hidden behind this pumpkin. So I'm not gonna have, you know, as much symmetry, or it looks as though, on this one because it is hidden behind. So kind of taking in a little bit of that shading orange and adding some wisp lines to, you know, bring it to life a little bit. You can always add in a little bit more. Also, if you guys have noticed, I used the paint that I already had on here to kind of do my swish lines. I did not go and add any more paint into my brush. I used what I already had and I made that work. Because when I'm doing those swish lines, I don't want them to be really thick. I like them to be thin and wispy. So I just cleaned that brush out. Let me cap this because I am now done with my shading orange. It doesn't take very much, just a little dab. And let's go ahead and do our teal for our little blanket in the barrel. Now on this version, I shaded it with teal mixed with black, but I think on this one, I'm actually gonna shade it with sky blue. I'm gonna go lighter instead of darker. Don't know if I'm gonna like it, but I thought, hey, let's try it out. Let's do something a little different and let's see what we think. And if we don't like it, you can always stick with what my original color scheme was. And all that is teal number 7 mixed with a little bit of black. So I'm just gonna take a little bit of our sky blue. Let me add a dab of water, because anytime I'm shading, I'm always gonna add a little bit of water. It makes my strokes go a lot further and my lines look a lot smoother. And for me, that's important. That's the look I'm personally going for. Everybody's different in what they're searching for and what they're trying to accomplish, but for me, I like fluid, solid, straight lines. It's just the way I am. So, mix in a little bit of water with that sky blue. I'm gonna dip the corner of my shader, and I'm gonna start shading this. Ooh, I like that. Now, my shader's a little wet, because I just went from one color to the next and washed this out of my bucket. So it's kind of giving me, oh, I like that. I like that. It's given me almost another dimension that I didn't have before. So I'm gonna do the same thing over here, kind of just following around with the perimeter. Okay, I think I like the lighter color. What do you guys think? Do you prefer the sky blue, or do you prefer the dark teal, the shading teal, I call it? Though it's not a mixed color, we mixed it ourselves. I kind of like the lighter version on that. I think it looks really good. So Carla says, I think I missed it, but where do you get your spoons from? These are from Restaurant Supply. So the same like tester spoons that you get in an ice cream shop, you know, it's the same thing. I'm sure you could honestly order them on Amazon too. When we get them in huge bags that have, I don't know, a couple thousand in them. And so they've lasted me the last couple years. I haven't purchased them in a while. I haven't had to purchase them in a while because I have so many. In fact, I am getting kind of low, so I need to go get more. But you can get them on Restaurant Supply, and I'm pretty sure you can get them on Amazon. Just search for tester spoons, tasting spoons, anything like that. For us, it's just very quick and easy. We grab them and you mix that paint up really fast. I'm not sure, I know exterior paint separates. I'm not somebody who works with interior paint or acrylic paint very much, so I'm not sure that you have the same issues with that. But I do know with exterior, your paint separates a lot. So let's see, Missy says she likes the lighter. I agree, I totally agree. I think it looks a lot better. Oh, sorry, Debbie. It's this whole camera angle. It's got me all flustered because I get so used to a certain thing, and then once you flip the camera so that you guys can read words, it goes totally different for me. It's opposite of what I'm used to doing. So let's see. Debbie says she got her tester spoons on Amazon. Perfect. Thank you, Debbie, for chiming in. I appreciate that. All right. I think, yeah, my shading brown is dry enough. I'm going to go ahead and get my camel on. So anytime I do dry brush, I do a shade, whatever my base is, I'm going to go a shade darker and a shade lighter. And that's what's going to give me the contrast that I'm looking for. So camel, a little tan color, it's going to be the shade lighter than reindeer brown. Reindeer brown is my base coat. So shading brown is going to be darker, and then camel's going to be lighter. So I'm going to get a little bit of camel. I think I already have a cup right here. Let me see. All right. And I'm actually going to pull the brush that I used earlier out of my water because for me, when I'm doing dry brushing, I like having my brushes a little bit damp because, again, it's going to give me the strokes that are longer and not short and choppy. And that paint is dried out and needs to go in the trash. So let me just put a dab on my table. All right, so I'm going to take a little bit of camel. Now, when I'm coming back over top of this doing my dry brush, I'm not trying to put as much on here with camel as I did with my shading brown. This is more of a complement and a contrast to the darkness. So you want to lighten it up a little bit, but you're not trying to overtake the work that you already did. So you're kind of just adding just a touch. Just a little bit. Now I'm going to flip it back. Same thing down here. Get my little bit of camel. And whatever the direction was that I already did prior to, I'm obviously still sticking with that. So I'm going to go back and forth between horizontal and vertical on these layers because I'm trying to create the look of a barrel. I did paint this pattern where I just went all horizontal, and it just didn't feel complete for me. I felt like it needed, it needed a little bit more. So we're going back and forth. Every layer is switching between horizontal and vertical. So there's a look at that camel. It just adds a lighter shade, and it kind of creates a pop that you didn't know you really needed. And so if you have any dark spots on there that you really don't like, take that lighter version, whatever your lighter color is. If you're, it doesn't necessarily have to be brown. This same concept works with any color you're using. But take your lighter color if you have a dark spot and kind of touch into there with it, and it'll lighten it up a lot easier for you. Now, as far as my shading goes, the only thing I have left to shade is all the brown that you guys are seeing. So, well, actually, and my leaves. Let me do my leaves first, and then we're going to do our brown, and then we can actually start outlining. So let's see. Katie Fisher says, don't forget, today is the last day to purchase your challenge blank pumpkin if you need it shipped, and she provided you guys with the link to that. So yes, thank you so much, Katie, for reminding us of that. We're doing the little pumpkin challenge for those of you that, hop in and you watch us, but maybe you haven't necessarily tried a project with us. That's to try to get you guys kind of out of your comfort zone and get you to join us in the painting world and see that it's really a lot easier than maybe you think it might be. We can teach you guys how to paint, but you guys are going to be the ones that have to, you know, kind of step outside of your box and be able to do that. So that's really what that challenge is for, is just to try to get you guys to, you know, join us. We know a lot of y'all just watch us and hang out, and that's totally fine. But we'd love to get you guys interacting and being able to experience the joys of, you know, producing your own pieces. So I'm taking a touch of that shading green, or I'm sorry, this is dark green, number 12, and kind of coming in on my perimeter. If these leaves were a little bit bigger, I would put in, you know, swish marks and try to really decorate them up a lot. But since they're kind of small, it's easier for me to just kind of stick with a little bit of a perimeter shade on that. So washing my brush out, and then we're gonna grab our shading brown and get to shading all the rest of it. So back to here, same shading brown I used on my brush, or on the base of my dry brush. I'm gonna load the corner of that brush, and now I'm following along with these lines that are already etched into my piece for me. Nice and easy, I don't have to guess. Now, on my vertical strokes that I made, I don't actually have lines on here for you guys, you know, that show you the vertical part. I did that with a paintbrush. So what I'm going to do now is come in here and use my shader to create those vertical lines for me. Now, for me personally, whenever I did this, I tried to switch and change my brush over in different directions so that my stroke marks were open, you know, kind of facing each other, and I felt like that just made it more difficult. So I'm keeping my brush in that same direction every time, and I'm not trying to rotate this part. So since I have my vertical lines up here, I'm just now coming down right below them and just trying to stay in line with it. It's all freehand. None of this is like I said, none of this is etched. It's just kind of me eyeballing a little bit and figuring out where I want to go with it. I'm trying to see, okay, I did do a little bit down here. I'm looking at my example. I did that example probably a month ago. And so when it's been that long since I've painted a pattern, I sometimes forget what I'm going for. There we go. So shading on your barrel is done. All right, now we're gonna flip it over, and we're gonna add a little bit of shading to our knobs on our pumpkins, and then obviously to our top sign. Hey, Renee, I'm so glad you're here. Renee says, which pumpkin is it? Renee, the pumpkin that we're talking about for the pumpkin challenge is the plain single pumpkin by itself. It is nice and simple and easy, and it's something that we can teach to anybody, whether you're a painter or not a painter. You don't have to have any experience to learn how to do that one. So we have different ads and stuff that we've put on our Facebook, or posts that we've put on our Facebook Painters Club. So you can see them on there or on our regular Facebook page. All right, so Sandy says it really looks like a bushel basket. Love it. Thank you so much, Sandy. It's all, you know, it's paint. So there's so much that you can do with it. I'm not somebody who paints in kind of a realistic style. I'm more of somebody who does a cartoon style. That's just how I am. That's just what I'm comfortable with, the kind of artist that, you know, my capabilities are. And so I feel like I try to teach you guys things that are more obtainable and easier to do for the average person. So I just took that shader and did a little perimeter shading, nothing fancy. All right. So all the shading on my piece is completely done. Now I'm going to go ahead and grab my blow dryer here for just a minute. Excuse me, and get this dry enough so that I can now come in with my script liner. So, luckily it's, you know, we're in just outside of Houston, Texas, so it's nice and hot. And this paint dries pretty fast in the heat. So I really only need maybe another 30 seconds with the blow dryer and we'll be ready to move on. So yeah, Debbie was saying the pumpkin that we're talking about does have leaves on both sides. That is correct. My mom and I both do the painting and the blanks. So what she teaches how to paint and what her responsibilities are for what she cuts, she has down there, and apparently in which she lives literally around the corner from the store. I'm in Conroe, and so I have my stuff on hand here at my house, and she has her stuff on hand down there. So I don't actually have a sample of the pumpkin for the painting challenge. I'm so sorry, I wish I did. Hindsight 2020, obviously that would have made more sense to have that with me. But I don't have one here, so my apologies. But we will, I'm happy after the live to go ahead and tag you in a post that we have all the information for that. So Sandy says, can we buy the blanks and paint them, then sell them? Of course, that's what we encourage you guys to do. That's exactly what has given me an income over the last 5 years that I've been working for myself, is painting and selling them. You know, you got to do what you have to do to make ends meet. And plus, I think there's so many people out here and in this kind of community of painters that we are all, you know, painting things and selling them. And I think that's fantastic. And we should all support one another on that, because it is not an easy world to kind of break into. So honey, you go for it, please. And let us know how it goes. Let us know how successful you are. We'd love to hear about that. So Misty says, I just want to come and spend a week going over cutter settings and getting painting and shading class. You're so funny. Yes. Sandy, I'm sorry, Misty, what, do you have a program that you're using for your CNC and your cutting? Because I think I've told you before, if you're using VCarve, I can totally help you. I'm a VCarve Pro. But if you're using any other software, I can't say that I know anything about that. But yeah, I'm 100% willing to help. I never thought in a million years that I was going to be the one. You know, I've always been a painter, but I never thought that I would learn how to. Sorry, y'all. I don't think my mom realizes I'm on a live. But I never thought I was going to learn how to create files, you know, and that was something I told you guys a couple of days ago on a live, or maybe it was in our Zoom call, that I started having to create our files because I'm a little too, how do we say this? Picky. Picky is the easy way to say it. I'm a little too picky and maybe a little headstrong about what I want. And so Zach and I found years ago that it works a lot better if I'm the one that designs the files. So that way if something comes out wrong, I can be mad at myself. And so because of that, I learned how to, you know, design files, and I learned how to run our CNC. For the longest time, I was only the painter, and now I can do everything. I can design files, I can paint, I can run my CNC, I can cut stuff, I can do it all. And so it's hard to, you know, kind of have all of the jobs, but then at the same time, it's really nice to be able to know about every facet of this business and be able to know that I can do it if I need to do it. And that's no problem. So I'm totally willing to help anybody else in that same situation, because it's not easy learning. Painting, I feel like painting's the easy part. It's all the work that goes along with the painting and production of something that is not necessarily easy. All right, y'all, this is my shading red. If you don't have shading red at home, mix a little bit of black and red together and you can create a shading red. But you see the complement with the brown tones that shading red creates for me? It's such a better complement than using a black. A black is very dark. So, hey Mary, thank you for joining us. I think I was telling her buddy when you were calling, I think she doesn't remember that I'm on a live tonight. So, Let's see. Oh, Sandy said thanks. And Missy said, just got the spinner to spin for the first time today. So excited. Downloading V-Carve this evening. Oh, that is so amazing. V-Carve is, it's one of those things at first it'll feel daunting, but once you learn it, it's really easy and user-friendly. It just takes a little, it's just like painting, you know, you're not going to learn it until you practice it. Same thing with the digital, it's you know, digital creation. Just got to practice with it a little bit. All right, so whenever I'm using any kind of brown tones, I'm always outlining it with my shading red. It's kind of, you know, it stays within a brown family. It's not necessarily brown, but it's definitely not black. And at this point, I'm just sticking with the perimeter and kind of coming in here and giving it a little outline, a little definition. And I'm struggling with keeping a straight line. That line's a little wonky, but nah, okay, that's all right. We're gonna move on. Wonky lines happen. All right, so my browns are now outlined, right? Only thing left I need to outline is my pumpkin and my blanket. Now, my pumpkins, since they're done in the orange family, I'm actually going to outline with red orange, number 19. If you don't have red orange, that's okay. You can mix together a dark orange and a red, and you can create a red orange. So I am using that Royal Gold script liner number 4. Same script liner I'm always using, and I'm kind of going to follow around the perimeter lines and then my shading spots. They don't necessarily have to be dark and really on point. I do always follow along with those lines on the perimeter. And then the lines in the middle, I kind of come in and go over top of them as kind of like a highlight on that color. There we go, just a little bit. Alrighty, now I'm going to switch and do my outlining with my black. So Joy says, looks really good. Thank you, Joy, you're so sweet. My mom says, hey Ash, I'm late, but I'm here. We're so glad you're here. Thank you for coming, Mama. She said she totally spaced out on that. I think it's because this week we've had, let's see, Monday, Mary had a live. Tuesday, we had a Zoom meeting with our Yard Art Academy ladies. And then yesterday I had a live, and then today I have a live. So, you know, we're used to maybe having a couple of days off, and this week we haven't had very many days off. And so it is easy to kind of slip our minds. But I'm taking a little bit of black now, and I'm gonna just finish outlining the stuff that's not outlined. So that's gonna be my little blanket here, and it's gonna be the leaves on my pumpkin. And since I did not go ahead and put some black in this space right here, I'll go ahead and just do that with my script liner. I'm somebody who, you know, if I already have the brush out, I'll make it work and not have to try to pull out a different brush. So I'm gonna add a little bit. I'm trying to keep in that frame, make sure I'm keeping in the frame. But I'm just gonna add a little bit to those perimeters. And then we're going to fill in our letters and do a little highlights, and this piece will be done. Some of my lines are etched a little deep, which is why you're seeing me going back and forth. It's because that paint's not getting down in that etching, and I don't like seeing, you know, white poking through, or that reindeer brown, or that teal poking through. I really prefer it to be a nice dark line. So there we go. Do the same thing on my leaves. Just a little bit. Now, in normal life, when I'm not on a live, and if I'm painting the same pattern, I do kind of wait in between these colors. I'm gonna wait for them to be dry So I'm not pulling, you know, wet red orange from the pumpkin in with my black. But since we're on a live, you guys see me move, you know, continuously. In real life, I don't move like that when I'm painting pieces that I sell. I kind of paint and then I wait for stuff to dry. But the reason that that works so well with me is because I paint multiple pieces at a time. So by the time I roll around with in the room with, like, let's say my black script liner that I'm using right now, I'm gonna literally roll to all the pieces in my room and I'm gonna use the black script liner on all of them. And so by the time I get done doing all the black and I come around and I'm ready for that next color, all those previous colors are always dry. So that's how I get around that in my working time. But for the sake of a live, it's just obviously easier to continuously move. So as far as outline goes, that piece is completely done. Hey, Deborah, I hope you're doing good. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. So let's see, Mom says this is item number 4221 on the website. Hey, Victoria, I hope you're doing good, honey. I am just doing a little bit of outline on this piece, and I was telling everybody I didn't come in here prior to and kind of give myself a background in here. So at this point, since I already have my script liner out, I have my black out, I'm going to go ahead and black this part out. You can leave it white. You can even paint it like a sky blue and have it looking like the sky. You know, you don't necessarily have to do it black. If you don't like it black, don't feel like you have to. But I almost wanted that part to disappear, like it's not there. The reason it's actually there is because if my CNC came in here and cut this out, it would be easy for this part to break off because it wouldn't have as much stability with it. And I didn't want that. So I kind of I added the line over here myself, for the sake of not having broken pieces laying around or having to go into the burn pile. I don't like having to burn stuff that I just got done cutting because it didn't work out. That's never fun. All right, next thing we're gonna do, all we have left to do really is filling in our letters and adding some white highlights. So in my example, I used teal in my letters, the same teal that I used down here on the blanket. So I'm gonna stick with teal. Now, let me tell you guys, I didn't necessarily feel 100% sold on the teal, but what I can tell you is that I paint a lot of pieces and I use a lot of obviously I use the same colors on pieces that I do. And I do a ton of pieces that have this brown background. And I'm just somebody that's tired of using white and black for the letters. I'm just tired of doing it. I do it on everything. And so this piece, I kind of wanted to try something a little more colorful and a little different. So I need to add a little bit of water to this. I'm not liking how thick it is. Anytime I'm working with my script liner, for me, it's easier to have this paint watered down a little bit, kind of thinned out a little bit, because for me, it's gonna glide a lot better and it's gonna go on a lot smoother. And anybody who's worked with a script liner before, I'm sure you guys have kind of figured out that it might be a little easier for some of you if you've added a touch of water, maybe a few drops of water. It just seems to be a little easier to get it to move and glide the way that you're wanting it to. But if you guys don't like the teal, don't feel like you have to use it. You could always use any other thing that you want. You could stick with the shading red that we used on the profile of it and kind of stick in the same family and then put a little white highlights on it. You could always do that. You could do black. Black's very traditional. You could do white. But I thought, let's brighten it up a little bit. Just a little bit. So at this moment, all I'm doing is coming in with this script liner and I'm following along with the lines that are already etched in here for me. I kind of set my brush down in those grooves and let my brush kind of guide me around. As soon as I see that my lines are my strokes are not going fluid, then I just grab a little bit of more paint and come on back down and try it again. Not something that you have to be perfect on. Anybody who's come to this store and has looked at my painted pieces, if you get up close to it, I do not stay inside of those lines perfectly. I do not have very good straight lines or rounded circles or anything like that. So don't be hard on yourself, and know that, you know, myself, I don't do very well at straight lines or circles or anything like, or being perfect inside those lines. And so honestly, I don't even try. I just kind of stick within wherever I'm at, and if I go a little bit over, if I'm a little bit under, okay, that's fine. Take it, move on. I have a feeling I'm not going to be able to get some white highlights on these letters though, because I have a lot of paint on here. So let's see. Sandy says, is the coverage still good with the water added? Yes, it is, Sandy. You have to start out with a little bit of water. And I don't add water if I'm doing base coating or priming. I only add a little bit of water when I'm shading or I'm outlining. And in this case, because I'm using this, my script liner brush, for me, it's kind of like outlining. If I had really thick paint and I'm trying to use this script liner, that paint's not gonna necessarily go where I want it to go in a fast manner. Because for me, it's about being fast. You know, that's how I earn a living. If I'm not fast, I don't get paid. And so, you know, adding a touch of water for me goes a really long way. But I'll tell you to practice with what you have and add a couple of drops of water. I know you guys see me add a lot. That's because I've been doing this a long time and I know exactly what I need. I can look at the paint and I can mix it and I'm like, I need a lot of water, or I need a few drops of water. It's become so normal for me that I can look at that and feel that and sense exactly what it is that I'm wanting. But for somebody who's not been doing it as long, or maybe hasn't practiced that yet, I would say start off with just a little bit of water. Don't try to overdo it. And then start dipping your brush in and seeing if your strokes go a little bit further, but still have coverage. That is very important. The coverage part is, of course, important. So as far as my piece goes, with outlining, shading, and all that, I'm done. The only thing I have left to do is go ahead and add some highlights. So Pam says, love the move on attitude. Love the move on attitude. Honey, I don't know what that means, but I have an attitude, that's for sure. But yes, I have, I was on a live last night, and you know, the night before we were on a Zoom, and I've been telling everybody about all the craziness going on over here. And I'm really kind of hoping for a little bit of a quieter next couple of weeks. That would be ideal for me. Life to just be a little more chill. So I'm doing a little bit of kind of crosshatch. This is just white, number 35. It does have water added into it. I'm still using that script liner, and I'm kind of just coming in and creating those long strokes and then coming back and cross-hatching them. I'm not adding any more paint as I'm going. I'm kind of allowing my brush to release all the paint that I do have. I'm not getting more as I'm going. The only time I get more is when I'm putting my brush down and I literally don't see anything else coming out of it. Other than that, oh, I kind of don't like the way that stroke came. That's okay. All right. I kind of cleaned it up and come back in. All right. So since my brown has that camel, I'm kind of using that camel as a highlight for the brown. I'm not gonna, because I put that lighter camel, which is a tan color, in here, I'm not gonna come into the brown with a white because I want the browns to stay in the brown family. It already has a great contrast in my brown. So I'm not coming in with the white. I'm only gonna bring the white into the colors that are not inside of my brown family that I don't have like a 3-tone contrast with. So let's see. Pam says, if you have a problem, just keep moving forward. That is so true, Pam. So, so true. That's honestly how I learned how to do this, is to keep pushing forward even when I feel like I'm not doing this right and it doesn't look good. You just got to keep on doing it. So yes, we use all exterior paint. All exterior paint, yes. It doesn't really matter. I've had some of you guys ask, you know, what brand do you use? Honestly, brand does not matter. It's we use exterior paint and primer in one, but it's really going to be what you can afford. There's so many different brands out there, and the price range can go from, you know, $30 to $55 or $60, and you know, find what works for you and kind of stick with it. Now, the only thing, I'm actually done with my piece. The only thing I have left to do is add a little bit of white to my words. But this probably isn't gonna look very good. Yeah. It's not gonna look that great because my words are still really, really wet. But for the purpose of our live, I will try my best to go ahead and get some white on here. So I'm gonna I'm really loading it with some white and coming in and trying to offload that. And then offloading my brush because it has so much teal on it. Typically, anytime I'm coming in on my letters and I'm adding highlights to my letters, I do not do that while they're wet. I do wait till they're dry. And for me, that's really because of all the color that my brush is going to be picking up, that I'm not trying to blend it, I'm trying to highlight it. And so it almost will become a blend, you know, because you have multiple parts or multiple colors that are wet. No worries though, we're almost done. Do a little dot on my eye. And boop, there we go. Call it a day. There is your finished product, y'all. Here's a little up close look. All right. Here's the dry look again. So we, just to recap, I started with one coat of white. I know there's no white. You see no white on here. The only reason I did that was so that every coat that I put on top of there had something to stick to. So one coat of white, and then I came in with my reindeer brown here on the knobs of my pumpkins, and of course my sign and my barrel. And then I used teal number 7, light orange, and Christmas green. And then I just came in with my shading colors and shaded those and outlined. And it was as simple as that. So let's see, do we have any questions that maybe I might have missed? Joyce says, clean brushes. I use Murphy's Wool soap. My question is, how often do you use the Xylol Xylene? That's a great question. You always are gonna wash your brushes with Murphy's Wool, right? Now, when you get dried in paint, that is when you use Xylol Xylene. My mom probably doesn't use the Xylol, but maybe every few months. She paints in a room inside that's climate controlled. I paint outside. So my shop today was 99 degrees. You know, it's in the 97 to 100 range every single day. And so when I'm rolling around the room and I'm doing, you know, 10 or 12 pieces, and I'm using that same brush and I'm literally going shoop, 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 and I roll to the next piece, shoop, 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 same thing. By the time I get done, when I go to wash my brush, I always have dried in paint in it. So for me, I literally use Xylol on a weekly basis, on almost a daily basis, depending on what brush I'm cleaning. But I almost constantly have a cup of Xylol full where I can go in and clean my brush. But that's because my paint dries in my brushes so fast because of my heat, because I'm outside. And so I go through brushes a lot faster than somebody who is gonna paint indoors, you know? So for those of you that are painting indoors and are climate controlled, and you're obviously not painting every single day, multiple pieces a day with the same brush outside, you know, you're not gonna have to use the Xylol as much as me. I think I'm more of an exception to that rule than most of you guys would be. So Paula says, I'd love to get this blank for sure. It's on our website at yardedrus.com. You can go to our fall blanks, and it's right underneath there. I know we have some in stock. And let's see, Joyce says she loves the way that the wood looks. Thank you, Joyce. Years ago, I kept painting different signs, you know, brown signs, and it was like reindeer brown with brown shading. And I just kind of got tired of that. So I started to switch to the dry brush, and I really feel like it adds a different dimension to your piece that you wouldn't otherwise have. And so I think you guys have noticed, I almost use dry brushing probably too much, but I just love the way that it looks. So it brings just so much more to that piece. And you can do it on anything. It doesn't even necessarily have to be wood. You know, we've done it with a welcome truck before, and that still turned out really great. So dry brushing is something that you can use for a lot of different things. So let's see, I want to just make sure I answered everybody's questions. Oh Lord, okay, hold on. I just want to let everybody know one of my favorite memories of Ashley is when she was 9 months pregnant, standing out in, oh Lord, I can't even read the rest of that. I'm trying to click see more. Standing out in the driveway with the brush in her hand, painting Christmas trees. Her belly kept getting in the way, and she kept working to get past those trees painted. I feel like I remember that day because I was waddling and, you know, like waddling back and forth, trying to just get through it, get through the end of pregnancy. I had Carly 2 days before Christmas. So, you know, Christmas season was there, and I was obviously painting very pregnant. And yes, I do recall that. So much fun though. So Debbie says, looks good. Thank you so much, guys. I'm so glad y'all joined me tonight. I think I answered all the questions. If any more questions arise, feel free to go ahead and comment, and I'll get back to y'all. But other than that, I'm so glad y'all joined me. Let me grab my schedule and let you know when our next live is. So let's see. Today's the 20th, and y'all had me. So the 24th, so Monday, I'm in the Academy with the Thankful Wagon. And then we have our Pumpkin Challenge next Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And then Friday, Mary will be in the Painters Club with the candy corn and the Happy Halloween Ghost. So next week, you have us Monday through Friday every day with lives. So I hope you guys can join us. Thank y'all so much. I appreciate y'all being involved, asking questions, and coming and hanging out. Let's see, Victoria says, will you put the cold roll steel in later? Yes, so all of y'all's blanks throughout the store do have cold roll steel. Whenever I know I'm gonna be doing a live, and if I don't already have cold roll steel in there, I pull that off of our work table before they get drilled, because I prefer to paint them without the steel, because otherwise when I have it sitting right here, I have to have it moved up for enough space so that that steel's not hitting my belly or my, you know, hitting me. And so it kind of bothers me as far as the live. So typically I prefer to paint on a live without the steel, and then I add it afterwards. So Dolores said, love the way it came out. Thank you so much, Dolores. Well, everybody, y'all enjoy the rest of your Thursday night. We'll see you Monday through Friday next week with me and my mom. And any questions, y'all drop them in the comments, and I'll answer them after we get done. Thank y'all so much. Enjoy the rest of your night, and have a great weekend. We'll see you guys Monday. Bye, guys.